It's time to change the brake pads on my 2016 Mercedes C450. This should be a similar process for a lot of Mercedes. And of course, being a German car, it is a little more complicated than your average brake pad change. Let's get started by jacking up the car and taking off the wheel. I'll be starting on the front brakes, which are slightly different from the rear brakes. There's an extra step you need to take to get the rear brakes to release with the electronic handbrake, so we'll look at that later. But the first thing to do with the front brake is to remove the brake pad wear sensor that's only on the passenger side of the car. Then remove this one bolt holding the wear pad sensor connector on there. After that, we can remove this wire retainer, which allows us to slide these pins out. It helps if you push on this metal retainer in the middle to relieve the pressure to help you slide the pins. The brake pads will be pretty tight in there, so I'm using a brake pad spreader to loosen them up so I can pull them out. With the old brake pads gone, it's time to push those pistons back in so we can fit our new, thicker brake pads back inside. I used a couple tools to push the pistons back in while the caliper was still on, but you can take off the caliper also if that's easier for you. Just be careful not to tear the boots around the pistons. Add a little brake grease to the backing plates on the new pads and slide the new pads into place. Start reinstalling the pins and metal retainer. You can tap them into place, making sure that everything is still lined up. Reinstall the wire retainer that holds the pins in. And reinstall the wear pad sensor. If you let your sensor wear down to the point that your car had to tell you to replace your brakes, then you'll need a new one. And reinstall the clip bracket. And that's it for the front brakes. Let's move on to the rear brakes, which are a little bit trickier because they have an electronic parking brake on them. There's a secret menu in your dash to set the electronic parking brake to a service position. To enter the service menu, we need to turn the car on to accessory. So push the start button once. So we have the dash up here. Let's go to home. And this has to be on the odometer setting. So when you can see your miles, that's when you're ready. And we're gonna press the OK button and the answer call button simultaneously. And this is what it'll look like. And here's the menu. If we go down to brake pad replace, and before we go into there, we need to release the handbrake. So I just released the handbrake. Let's go into brake pad replace. And now it says to move to fitting position, press OK. So when I press OK, the electronic handbrake is going to release even more. That allows us to put the new pads in and take the old ones out. But when you click OK, it'll say that it's moved and a brake light will illuminate here. And that light will stay on until you're done with the brake job. Start by removing this metal retainer. And these two plastic caps that are hiding two bolts. These bolts are hard to see because they're hidden in a sleeve, but mine take a 45 size star bit, and I found it fits pretty well in an 8mm socket. You also need to disconnect the sensor bracket and disconnect the sensor itself. Remove the caliper and hang it up out of the way with a bungee cord. And now you can finally remove the old brake pads. It's time to push the brake piston back in. This is only possible if you went through the car's menu in the dash like I showed you earlier. If you have not set the brakes to the fitting position, you cannot push these back in yet. Add some brake grease to the backing plates on the rear brake pads, and you can see that I already swapped over the wear pad sensor to the inside pad and put them back on the rotor. Now you can reinstall the caliper and the 2 bolts that hold it on. Reconnect the wear pad sensor and reinstall the bracket. Snap this metal retainer back into place, and we're all done with the dirty part. All we have to do is hop back in the car and reset the electronic handbrake. We're now back inside the car with the turned on to accessory, and you have the 2 illuminated lights on the right gauge showing that you're still in the fitting mode, and all we need to do now is exit the fitting mode. We get back to the service menu by holding the OK button and the answer call button again. Scroll down to the brake pad replace menu again. Click OK to exit the fitting position. And click OK one more time to confirm that you're done. You can now start the car and pump the brakes a few times to get the pressure back in and the pads all settled. And that is it. You have just mastered German engineering. Congratulations. Be sure to check out my other videos, and thanks for watching.